that after being on this planet for nearly 50 years at this point, that the only thing that matters is to make yourself and your creator proud. That's it. That's it. If you can make yourself proud today, and you can make him proud because you honored and respected the gifts that he bestowed you with, then you win. And everybody else around you wins. Kipp, what's up, man? Great to see you. We are back to it this week. I had a really good weekend. I took my, wanted to tell you this and share hunting stories, because what man doesn't love sharing hunting stories? But yeah, I took my youngest son on a pig hunt last weekend with outdoor, from field to table. And it was so awesome. He's 10 and he's never really shot more than a little, Red Ryder BB gun and a little 22, a bolt action 22 we have, and a lever action Henry 22 we have. And then we have this little cool Ruger 22 rifle with oh, hold on. There's a bug on me, man. I felt a bug on my elbow and I just flicked him off me. Holy shit. That scared me. And it's got this little red dot on it. Anyways, he's only shot 22s, but we went out there and we're shooting 6.5 Creedmoors. And we're on the range and he's shooting it. And I'm like, dang, it's suppressed, which is nice because it cuts down on the noise and the violence and the recoil. But long story short, we were sitting in a box blind and I'm trying to keep him busy and entertained. He's getting bored and he looks up. He's like, Dad, there's a pig. And it was a big boar. And it was about 120 yards, 130 yards away. And I said, okay, well, hold on. Just we don't need to rush. This pig's going to be around for a minute. Just breathe. And so we're sitting there watching it. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if he can make this shot. It's a 130-yard shot. We trained him to shoot him in the head. I'm like, I don't know if he can do it. And he's like, Dad, should I do it now? I'm like, no, just hold on. Wait till he turns broadside. You're going to shoot him right in the head, right where we told you, behind the ear. And he's like, okay. And he's like, now? I'm like, no, he's still moving. Just wait. And then the pig went behind this feeder, and my youngest son's frustrated. He's just ready to go. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it in 3 seconds. I'm like, no, you can't even see him. Hold on. And he's like, okay. I said, wait for him to come out the other side. He will. And he did. The pig came out to the other side and he's facing us. And he's like, now? I'm like, no, wait till he turns broadside. He will. It's okay. Breathe. And finally the pig turned broadside and he's like, are you ready, Dad? I'm like, I'm ready when you're ready. And I said, just breathe and do it slow. And he did, and shot this pig, and it dropped right where it stood and just went stiff-legged, legs straight in the air. And I was so excited for him. He ran up, and he saw it. And, he made the perfect headshot on this 6.5 Creedmoor, drilled this pig, dropped it where it stood, and it's the biggest pig it's bigger than anything I've ever shot. Anything that my oldest two boys have shot. And so, man, he was just on cloud nine. So he's a hunter now. He's officially a hunter.
I love it. How long was that wait between him seeing it and then you guys kind of waiting for the right shot? How long was that?
It wasn't too long. I would say it's probably maybe 4 or 5 minutes, if 3 to 5 minutes.
It probably felt like an hour to him.
Oh, for him.
He's like, let's go already.
It might not even be, it might have been closer to 3 minutes, and I said, just wait, breathe through it. And I've done this enough. And Kipp, you went on a hunt with us, your first bow hunt with us, and have had success over the past couple of years. But I love taking new hunters out, whether it's guys that have never been hunting before or my own kids. There's just something amazing about it. So it was a good weekend, really good weekend. But now I'm stressed out trying to get back on top of everything. And then I leave for the
all those
events.
things.
So what's that?
Well, I was going to say, all those things that you needed to do, they just didn't disappear because you went on a holiday.
I thought all the shit would take a break as I took a break, but clearly that doesn't happen. So here we are playing catch up. So, but we'll get it all done.
Yeah, and we got the Forge event, like you said, right?
Yeah,
so we, we got
it.
a busy week. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
cool, brother. Well, let's get into some questions today. I know we got some over on Facebook. I've got a few here that were posed to me, so I think we've got plenty of questions, and hopefully we can give some guys some good answers today.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, these are, I don't know, there's some good questions in here. So Benjamin Williamson, new guy actually that just joined the Iron Council. So welcome, Benjamin.
Nice.
Welcome to the Brotherhood. He says, this question can apply to any of you. Was there ever a time when you were able to draw some connections between your initial resentment and anger towards your father and how that might be a negative impact your relationship with God or as your heavenly father in terms of intellectual skepticism or emotional or relational distance? My other question is about, let's leave there. He has two questions. Maybe we answer both, but sure. This correlation, right, between our maybe some father wounds and how that relates to, our relationship with God.
Yeah, I never really had the conversation about God with my father. It's just not something that we talked about. He wasn't in the home, and the other father figures that I had in my life weren't particularly spiritual or religious. So these are just not conversations that I've had. So I can't say that there's any sort of feeling that he did or did not have that influenced the way that I felt, because it just wasn't something we addressed. And I think the lesson there is that even in the absence of conversations, that can be an impact in a young man's life. And I think about that with my own children. It would be much easier to avoid having certain conversations, whether it's drugs or religion or politics or sex or money. And there's plenty of young men who grew up without those conversations from who should be the most influential person in their life. I never had that. So there's nothing there for me. So I can't really answer that question honestly, other than to say, make sure that your voice is the loudest voice in your children's head. Because if it's not you, it's going to be their school teacher or their buddies or that influencer or the pop star that they heard say some dumb random shit about life that isn't going to serve them well. It's got to be your voice. And the only way to do that is to be present mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and to get into their environment and world. That's the only way it happens.
Yeah. I don't know if Benjamin's, I'll give you another angle, right? For you, Benjamin, as you're obviously considering this question, it comes to one of my older brothers. He made this correlation for me. He helped me actually understand this. It was in my 20s, and I was kind of, early 20s. I was just kind of trying to establish a better relationship with God in my life. And my brother Dustin noted this. He's like, well, Kipp, he says, I believe this is difficult for you because the idea of a heavenly father, right, of a God, it's hard to feel what that looks like when you've had an absent relationship with your dad. But if you had a great loving relationship with your father, you can build on that, right? You can go, oh, got it. That's what God must feel like for me all the time, or or it's relatable. Let me say it that way. And I do feel that I use that to, I think, understand my relationship with God better is by how I see my children. And how I have some unconditional love for them, how I want what's best for them. And so now that I have that experience for myself, that I do draw that connection of what that would be like for God. And so I have found that the absence or the lack of a strong relationship with my father has absolutely played a role in my relationship spiritually with my God, without a doubt. And I think actually if I had a father that was more active in my life, that was expressive of love, that I felt loved by, that would only help me in my relationship with the higher power.
It's interesting because we are so influenced by the environments that we're immersed in that we don't even realize how immersed in it we are. It's like telling a human to point to oxygen. It's like, what do you mean? It's literally everywhere. How do I point to it? or telling a fish to point to water. Like it just is. It's in the entirety of our existence. And I think we are very much the same way, and our children are very much the same way. Those who grew up in a house of love and care and consideration and kindness are so immersed in it that they don't even know how to point it out. And the opposite is also true. There are children who are born and raised in environments of hate and hostility and violence and scarcity and fear that they don't understand. A fish doesn't understand what it would be like to live in an environment of oxygen, and we don't understand what it would be like to live in the ocean. It's amazing to me how influenced we are by the environments that we find ourselves in, which just underscores the importance of putting ourselves in environments where our children can thrive. I even think about that this weekend. I've got videos and pictures, and I was there with Outdoor Solutions from Field to Table, and we were out with guides, and we would get my youngest son and I. He's 10. My youngest son and I would get back at the end of the day, and he'd be like, "Dad, I really liked Ryan, who was one of our guides." And then he'd come back and he's like, "I really liked Wesley, who's one of our guides. And I really liked Jimmy, who's one of our guides." And I watched these guys interact with, when my son shot that pig, Wesley rolled up because he was somewhere else. He rolled up and he came over and he gave my son, he doesn't even know my son. He gave my son a big hug. He's like, "Dude, I'm so proud of you," because 24 hours earlier, he was working with him on how to make shots on the range. And so my son was now for 3.5 days immersed in this environment of hunters and good men and men who are showing their skills and teaching their skills and cheering for each other and celebrating each other and laughing and doing all of these things. That's an environment that I deliberately set up for my son. And it isn't just me, it's other men who I want in his life. Man, the importance of environments cannot be overstated.
I love it. All right. Another question by Anthony M. Ott. He says, "Guys, longtime listener, my question, a little bit of a long one, so I'm going to jump around a little bit here." He says, "I grew up with a single mother household with my older sister. He's now a grown adult with a wife and 3 kids. Mm-hmm. He says, we had a fallout during Easter with sentences emotionally charged, pretty much insinuating how we need to be there for her, his mom, because of the stuff that she's going through, but in a much more polite way, but manipulative. I'm not tempted at all to feed into this dynamic, but I don't want to come across dismissive. How do I maintain autonomy to provide and preside for my family and prioritize them, but also give her the attention she wants without feeling like I'm feeding into an ancient role I was trained to fulfill, being emotionally responsible for her well-being? Thanks again for all that you guys do."
Yeah. Yeah, I think I understand the essence of the question. You know, how do I honor and respect what she might want and need and desire from me as my mother? And how do I do that with some clearly established boundaries and rules for the way that I show up and maintain my own standard in life? Is that,
yeah?
Would you say that's accurate? Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is there's obviously some concerns around how it affects his family, right?
Yeah.
How
that's
mom's
where the
showing up
boundaries
and how
come
it's
in.
affecting his wife and kids. Yeah.
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 We train people how to treat us. And if you, and based on your question, it doesn't sound like your mom's being mean-spirited or malicious or vindictive or anything like that. It just sounds like there's a misalignment between what she might need or what maybe even the family perceives that she might need versus what you and your immediate family, your wife and 3 kids need. And if you allow people to treat you in a way that does not align with your values, then that's your responsibility. It's not theirs. And if you do one of 2 things, if you either get combative and start to argue and fight and that sort of thing, it's not going to go over well. If you ignore it and you don't address it and bring it up, it's not going to go well because they don't know how to act. You know, again, I'm going back to this experience I had with my son. There was some moments where he was really good. And there were some moments where I'm like, hey, that's not how we behave because of X, Y, and Z. So here's the better way to show up. Because he's a kid. Well, we have to do the same thing with adults. Kipp, if you jumped on the phone with me, let's say you called me this afternoon and you began to disrespect me in some way. Maybe you made some personal insults. Maybe you got loud. Maybe you got offensive towards me. I would stop you in your tracks and I'd say, hey, hold on a second. If we're going to continue this conversation, this is how you will address me. And if you can't do that, then I'm not having this conversation. So the ball's in your court, but that's my boundary. And then you can either decide, okay, well, if I want to have this conversation with Ryan, I'm going to have to do it within these parameters. Otherwise, he's just not going to have the conversation. And that is the most manly thing that you can do in these situations. And so when it comes to your mother and potentially siblings and aunts and uncles and things like that, you need to let them know, hey, I love my mom. Here's how I can show up. Here's how I commit to showing up. But I will not be doing X, Y, and Z. I can explain that to you if you want. If not, that's okay too. But I have my family that I need to take care of. And so this is the way that we'll be showing up for my mother. You can take it or leave it. I don't care. But this is how I'll be showing up. And then I would also talk with your wife and your 3 kids, and I would say to them, hey guys, like, how should we show up for grandma? You know, what are the things that we can do? What are the things that we won't be able to do? And here's why I think we should do this, and here's why I don't think we should do this. But at the end of the day, your wife and kids matter more than your mom. And I know that might sound really harsh. I know there's a lot of people that say that maybe that shouldn't be the case, but there's a scripture that says that you ought to cling to your wife, where 2 people become one. And she should be the most important person in your life. You leave the mother and you go partner and pair with your wife. Your wife is the most important person in your life, not your kids, not your mom, not your friends. It's your wife. So you better honor that as a priority and also teach her how you are to be treated.
You know, and I can't help but imagine that having that conversation, if done appropriately with respect,
yes,
that most moms would be a little stinged and then would have a huge amount of respect for you showing up that way for your wife and kids.
She would be proud.
I mean, yeah, I'd done something similar to this where there's a little bit of family drama, and I called out some people that I was confident they were going to be very upset with me. And they actually reached out to me later and said, that's how a great husband should act.
Yes.
Right. And it was fascinating, right? Because I thought, I didn't think that would have happened. But I think your mom would even see it as you doing your duty, right? And you being a great husband and a good father, even though it may not serve her, right? So I think there's an element there. Ryan, let me ask you this
something
because
real quick on that, Kipp, and then I want to hear what you had to say. So decades ago, I'm old enough now where I don't say years ago anymore. I say decades ago.
You bunch them into of batches of 10 years at a time.
That's right. So decades ago, when on my wedding weekend, my mom came to see me get married, of course, as she should. And she was acting really weird. She wasn't being inappropriate, but she was being whiny and complainy and clingy and just really inappropriate. And I love my mom to death. And it's completely opposite of how I've ever known her to behave at the time. And I remember going on a walk with her. It was a day, maybe or 2 before my wedding. And I went on a walk with her. I said, hey, Mom, can we go for a walk? And she said, yeah. So we went for a walk. And I said, what the hell is going on with you?
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you are being in some ways like really inappropriate. You're being whiny, you're moping around, you're being weird, you're bringing a weird energy to the environment, and I don't appreciate it. And I don't know what's going on. Like, I just want to know what's up. She's like, I don't know. Like, you're my son, my oldest son. You're getting married, and I feel like I'm losing you to your wife, your soon to be wife. And I don't. It's just hard. I'm like, look, I understand all that. I really do. I get all that, and I can see why that would be a fear for you, and I can see why you'd be concerned. Your little boy's getting married, and I'm not going anywhere. Like, the dynamic might shift a little bit, but I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm still your boy. Like, I'm still your son. I still love you. But you will not do this weekend. This is my weekend, and this is her weekend. And you will get over yourself long enough to be able
moody.
To get through.
Yeah.
To be able to
be
get
moody next
through
week.
whatever you need to get through. But this weekend is not for you. And you know what? That was really hard to say to my mom. But she was like, you know what? You're right. This isn't about me. I can do that. And the rest of the weekend went great. It was amazing. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But that's my job as a man. She needed to be led in that moment. And I needed to lead. And it was the right thing to do for her. It was the right thing to do for me. It was the right way to respect my soon-to-be wife, to clear things up, to lead, to be assertive, to communicate effectively. And that's what's expected of you as a man. It's as simple as that.
And I love the fact that instead of just going hard, like, this is not your weekend. It's like, well, what's going on?
Yeah,
Seek to
for
understand,
sure.
how do I mitigate, your concerns, or what, you got curious around what she was dealing with. And I'm sure that your comments and suggestions to her not only reset kind of the boundary of how she needs to act, but also address some of her concerns. Of like,
course.
Hey, I'm not going to abandon you, and there's some humanity in that. So I actually really appreciate that. That's a great story. Yeah. I don't even remember what else I was going to say, to be honest with you, now that I think about it.
I don't know.
Your comment was so good, man. It was just
so profound.
Might as well move on. Yeah. All right. Jay Wayne. Actually, sorry, I'm all over the place. Now, see, you all messed me up here. Yeah. Jay Wayne. In dire straits, who are your 3 people you call up to circle the wagons? You got their back, and they all would cooperate with each other as well.
Ooh, this one's hard because if I leave somebody out, they'll be like, I didn't make the top 3. I'm like, nope, sorry.
Maybe. Well, and let's be honest, like, that's not that valuable, right? We throw out 3 names and great. Everyone sits back and goes, awesome. They have a guy, right? So let's add to Jay's question, if you don't mind, of like, what kind of relationship and what have you done to form that type of relationship with those 3 people? Right.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, like maybe some tactics of having those type of people in your life.
Well, I have the 3. I know who the 3 are. So
yeah.
I can say who they are, and I should, because I should honor them, actually. And then I can also talk about what makes it those 3, which as I think about it, all 3 have, there's some striking similarities between the relationship I have with all 3, which is kind of interesting as I think about it. So Kipp, number 1, it would be you. So you'd be one of those 3. It'd be Jay Jardulo, who obviously you have, and have a good relationship with. And then it would be Larry Hagner, who a lot of guys know, the dad edge. Like, it'd be those 3 people.
Got it.
I have some more to say, but what were you were going to ask something?
Does the 3 change for you depending on the scenario?
That's a good question. I guess probably. Like, if it was something personally related, I would call you 3. If it was something professionally related, I might be more inclined to call Larry right offhand because he's in a similar space.
Yeah.
If it was something that didn't have any sort of personal relevance, I might call somebody completely different. If I needed help with social media, for example, one guy who comes to mind is Connor Beaton with Man Talk. So Connor and I actually have a coaching call in May. And I wouldn't call him on a personal basis. If I was personally struggling with something, he wouldn't be my top 3, although we're friends. But professionally, based on what I would need or need some help with, then he would be somebody I would call. Bedros Keuilian is another one who I would call on a professional basis. Even personally, I would talk with him personally. I have shared personal things with him. So yeah, I guess it would change if there was some acute issue that I was dealing with. I'd be a little bit more selective with who I would choose. But broadly and generally, I would say it would be one of those three men.
Got it. Okay. So back to the other part you're going to share about,
Yeah.
I don't know, like why those three, or maybe like what have you done to formulate that or to create that for yourself?
Yeah. So just broadly, two things. I have shared some really sensitive information with you and Jay and Larry. Information that I would not want other people to know. Like I just would not want other people to know. And that's part of it. The fact that I have a level of trust explaining things to you guys that I would just not want anybody else to know. And if you don't have that level of trust with a person, then that is a problem. And you've got to figure out a way to develop and build trust with that person. Which leads to point number 2. I know you guys. And you have shared information with me that probably wouldn't be flattering for you.
Yeah.
And
it's a two-way street. The trust
right.
is.
And so that information stays with me. And I've earned that trust, and you've earned that trust, and Larry and Jay have earned that trust, and I've earned that trust with them. When I say I'll do things, I do things. When they say they'll do things, they do things. When I call them, even if they don't answer immediately, they get back with me. When they call me, even if I don't answer immediately, I get back with them. I know your families. I know less so with Jay and even less with Larry just because of the regional
geographic issues.
Yeah, right. But with you, I mean, we've broken bread together as family, and we've played together, and we've gone to the lake together, and you've invited us to your place, and like we've done things together.
Yeah.
But I also think it takes a level of going first. Leaders go first. How can you lead if you're not out front? You can't. I don't think you can. You have to be out front in some ways. And so it's scary and it's risky and it's challenging, but leaders go first. And that means that if you're having a hard time, it's probably going to take you going first and telling your buddy that, hey, man, I'm having a hard time with something. Can you help me work through some issues? And they will. They absolutely will. But it's scary. And so I remember when I was going through, when my ex-wife told me she wanted a divorce, I called all three of you and I told you exactly what was going on. And I explained it. And I explained my culpability in it. And it wasn't flattering and it wasn't pretty. But it took me going first to build that deep connection that we now have over the past, well, Kipp, for you and I, probably 8 or 9 years at this point. 9 years, I think. Maybe even 10. Decades at this point. And same thing with Jay. Like I've known Jay just as long. I've known Larry just as long. Maybe even a little longer with Larry. But yeah, it takes time.
Well, and it's what's fascinating. I love that you said lead first. Absolutely true. And that it creates safety for those people to open up. So if our relationship is somewhat superficial and you reach out and you kind of open up a little bit and say, hey, Kipp, I'm dealing with this. I hang up the phone going, oh, now Ryan's the person that I can go to.
Yeah.
Right. Because you extended trust to me. So it's really fascinating. At least in the corporate environment, I don't know if I agree with this. I'm going to go on a riff a little bit, but you hear this all the time. It's like, people need to earn your trust. And I disagree kind of, right? Like, I'm like, actually you can extend trust and try it out.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you're sitting back and going, I need proof. Well, that's not leading either. That's sitting back and waiting for someone else to show you something, validate it. I'm not saying you have to put everything out there, you know what I mean, to all people all the time. But like, I don't know, you need to be taking the step into fostering that type of trust in a relationship. And it's fascinating how much trust we get when we ask for help, not the other way around. That I establish trust with you by reaching out to you and saying, hey, Ryan, can I get your help? I need some help with things. That allows you to trust me more, which is fascinating to me.
There's a story of Benjamin Franklin, and there was people that he didn't like and that they didn't like him. And he was committed to figuring out, how can I build trust and credibility with this person? And do you know what he did? Have you heard the story? Do you know what he did?
Yeah, I heard the story. Yeah, he asked them for help.
Yeah,
is what his approach was. Yeah.
He would borrow books.
That's right. That's what it was.
So he would reach out to this individual and he'd say, hey, can I borrow, I know you have this book. Can I borrow this book? I've been interested in reading it. I'd like to read this book. And can I borrow it from you? And the person, because most people are kind-hearted, would say, okay, maybe feel weird, but like, okay, like they're not going to reject it. And so they would lend the book, and then he would read the book, and he would give it back, and he would give it back with personal notes. And he would share what he learned about the book and thank them. And automatically it built a level of rapport and connection and trust with the person because he asked for help. It's fascinating to me. You know, what's funny is, as you were saying this, I thought when you were talking about me reaching out to you with some of my personal issues, you felt like you could then connect with me. And I thought, well, I have dirt on him now, so I can share my dirt, because if I share my dirt, then I'm going to share his dirt.
Which is probably true, but that's not what my mind was thinking.
No, I know. But I think there is, to your point, I think there is this opportunity to say, hey, let's see how this person handles this information. Yeah. Let's see if they treat what I share with them gently and with a level of respect and reverence. And so we don't blab our all of our dirt. We don't open ourselves up completely, but we say, hey, let's experiment here. Let me give you this and see how you deal with this. And if they handle it with care, then okay, I can give this person a little bit more. And by the way, this isn't just platonic friendships. This is romantic relationships, right? If you're courting a woman, or if you're married, then you just share something about yourself that isn't necessarily flattering, but isn't going to be catastrophic either, and see how they handle it. You can tell pretty quickly, hey, that person's not interested, or they're flippant with what I just shared, or they're going deep with me. And that's a person that maybe ought to be a little bit bigger part of your life. Again, platonically or even romantically. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just love what happens to people when they serve others. And I wish I could reference this, but there's evidence of this from studies that I've read around the psychology of what happens. And when you serve people, what's the chemical reaction that generates connection and affection and love for people? Do you remember?
It's not dopamine. It's not oxytocin.
It
I don't
might
know.
be.
I'll look.
It might be oxytocin. So, but regardless, that gets released when you are helping people. And so when we create these opportunities for people to serve us, it's good for the relationship. And in most cases, we kind of treat it as like, well, I don't want to burden, Ryan. I don't want to burden my friends with this thing. No, you're robbing them from the opportunity of fostering a stronger relationship with you. So don't look at, seeking advice and counsel from others as some negative thing to the relationship. If anything, it will be positive.
Yeah. So I just pulled this up. It says, this is on ChatGPT. It says the primary chemical most associated with building relationships is oxytocin. So we got that right. People often call it the bonding hormone or the love hormone. It's released in situations like physical touch, which could be hugging, handshakes, sex, eye contact, and meaningful conversation, which is what we're talking about here. Here's the big one: acts of trust, generosity, and connection, and even shared hardship or teamwork. So this is why you see people who are going, this got me thinking about a movie that I love that I watched when I was a kid, which was Speed, right? Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. And the joke about it was, relationships built in hardship are, whatever. I can't exactly remember, but that's the reality. Is like Sandra Bullock's character and Keanu Reeves' character were in this hardship together, and that released oxytocin, which was the bonding hormone. So it may not last, but that hormone is very powerful. And it says this: when oxytocin is released, it increases feelings of trust, lowers fear and defensiveness, strengthens emotional bonding, and reinforces connection with the person you're interacting with. It also talks about dopamine as the reward and excitement hormone, serotonin as the mood stability and well-being hormone, and then endorphins, comfort, and long-term bonding. But oxytocin is the primary chemical.
Yeah. Yeah, see, we know what we're talking about.
We do a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah. All right. What else?
Jeremy Pragu, I have a question and would like to get your opinion. I read this earlier. There's not really a question in here. Okay. He gives us a statement, so we'll have to riff a little bit. Okay. Even though he says I have a question.
Just inflect your voice a little higher at the end, and then it sounds like a question.
Okay, let me give that a try. I'll try this. Okay, I'm a tire guy. I have been my whole life doing large tires on heavy. A tire guy.
Oh, tire guy.
Doing tire repairs, probably on heavy equipment. My last job, I worked 11 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, and at least 2 hours of commuting. I just took a new job in Alaska. It's 3 weeks on and 3 weeks off. I have a lot more time with the wife and kids when I'm home, but when I leave, all of the house responsibilities fall into my wife for 3 weeks at a time. And also, just as you know, my kids are ages 17 and 19.
Okay.
I didn't fluctuate very good.
You should have 17 and 19? And I'm like,
17 and 19.
I'm like, are you questioning their ages?
No, they're not 17 and 19. Yeah. I didn't know where to fluctuate. I mean, obviously he doesn't feel good about leaving his wife with the responsibilities for 3 weeks.
I mean, clearly, right? Like he's like, what he's asking, I think, is how do I help my wife even though I might not be there for 3 weeks?
Yeah. I like that.
So what I would say is you're 17 and you're 19. Did he say sons, daughters? Did he clarify?
Nope. No.
Okay.
17, 19, no genders.
They're adults, so they can help. So if they're going to still live at home and they're going to be there, which it sounds like they are, then what I would say is to train them, if you haven't already, to begin to train them to help out around the house. You know, maybe they're not going to cook or do some of those duties that she handles, whatever those duties might be, but can they change the oil in the car? Probably, because you're a tire guy, so I'm sure you're also a mechanic and you can teach them how to take care of vehicle maintenance. Can they do basic repairs around the house like plumbing and electrical? Are they working? And if they're working, can they contribute financially to the groceries? I mean, your 19-year-old should. I just had a conversation with my son several weeks ago, my oldest son, who's already turned 18 and he'll be graduating this year. And I said, hey, if you're going to school, and I did preface with this caveat, if you're going to school and pursuing a meaningful degree, not like some liberal arts degree or something, or to go teach people how to teach, like that's not a thing. But if you're actually going to school to pursue a career that requires a degree, or you're working on your career, training, he might go into firefighting. So if he's in the academy, then you can stay. I would love to have you stay at my house full time. Now there's going to be duties and responsibilities, and there's going to be a minor financial contribution. I'm not feeding you. You're an adult now, so you're going to feed yourself. And so you're going to contribute money to pay for groceries. You're going to help cover the cost. It's going to be minor, but help cover the cost of some of the housing, because I want you to learn how to do that. But you can be here, but you're also going to contribute. And I think you can teach your 17 and your 19-year-old to contribute in meaningful and significant ways and hold them accountable to doing that while you're gone. Yeah. I don't think that's too much to ask.
And especially at that age, I'm kind of like, I don't know, like giving your responsibilities to your wife at kids at that age. I mean, there's not much responsibility happening for the 17 and 19-year-old kids. It's not like you have a bunch of little kids at home and she's like overran with them. She's almost an empty nester while you're gone for 3 months with that age, at least in my opinion. But maybe I checked out, with my kids.
Yeah,
when they're that age. But
and I don't know the dynamic, but they're adults. I mean,
Yeah.
even the 17-year-old is
Yeah.
almost an adult. So, yeah, I would say that. I would also just ask her. I think it's as simple as that. Hey, babe, like I feel really guilty when I'm gone. I know I've been here more than I have in the past. I'm really grateful for that. But when I'm gone, it weighs heavy on my mind that I'm not there to help you take care of things around the house. What would be some good ways for me to ensure that things are taken care of? And she might say, you know what? I just want to make sure the mortgage is paid and I want the finances to be handled. And if I have an issue, maybe I'll just offload that to you so you can call and get the plumber scheduled or the lawn mowed while we're away. And so maybe you do. Maybe you hire somebody to come mow the lawn when you're gone. Maybe you hire somebody to come clean the house once a week. I have a home cleaner who comes in twice a month. And she comes in and she'll do dishes and she'll vacuum everything and she'll clean up the space and she'll clean the bathrooms. I don't want to do that. So she comes and does that twice a month. You can do that. You can hire somebody to do that. You have to be careful with women on that one because sometimes they feel like you're undermining what they should be doing. I know a lot of housewives and homemakers feel inferior if they have a house cleaner or a homemaid. But just communicate that with her. But there's ways that you can take care of those things, even if it's financially, so that offloads some of her responsibility while you're gone. That's what I would do.
And I would get connected also even to the emotional state, right? Like, how are we doing when I'm gone for 4 months? How are you feeling? Right? Do you feel like you're abandoned? Are you feeling lonely? You know what I mean? How do we move beyond that? Could we do phone calls, right? Because he's very much tactical right now, right? All the, what needs to be taken care of. Well, make sure that you're also addressing how she's feeling about it, right? And mitigate some of those concerns that she might have, even from an emotional perspective.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, you could even do like a virtual date night. It's like, hey, every Thursday is date night and we do FaceTime and
eat dinner together.
I was going to say, I would take it with reverence. Not like, hey, I'm going to sit on the couch in my pajamas while you do the same thing. It's like, no, we're going to eat dinner together and have a conversation. Or I'm trying to think a little bit outside of the box, but it's like, no, you're going to go to a restaurant and I'm going to go to a restaurant and we're going to eat Mexican tonight together on the phone. Like, it might sound silly, but right? That's what I think. Like, it might sound silly, but like, what if you went to a Mexican food place, your favorite food place, and you just got on a FaceTime and you're like, you ordered chips and salsa, she ordered chips and salsa, and you guys are having chips and salsa together, kind of. And then you asked her what she's going to order, or you let her order for you, and you order for her. Like, you can make things fun. You can be creative. Yeah. I mean, you could even like turn the phone around to the server. I know this sounds silly, but trust me, guys. Trust me. She will love this. And you turn the phone around and you let her order for you with the waiter. And then you order for her with her waiter. Like, I think something like that I think you guys could have a ton of fun with things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. All right. What questions do you have?
Okay. So, all right, let me pull my questions up here. All right. So, where are they? I would love to pull them up, but I don't know where they are. I thought I had them pulled up. Stand by. We'll get it. Technology is so amazing and so horrible at the same time. All right, here we go. I got them. All right, this one's kind of funny. So this one's from Daniel Harper. He says, I caught myself exaggerating a story in front of other men to sound more impressive. I mean, who hasn't done that?
I love that he's admitting it. Yeah, we all do it.
We won't tell anybody. But he also said he saw it land with him. So he kind of kept going. It sounds like they bought it. And that bothered me more than anything else. And then this is his question. He says, how do I kill the need for validation when it actually works out in your favor? And it does. It does work out in your favor. You know what? Here's how I'll answer that question. I have found that people relate more deeply when you communicate your inadequacies over exaggerating how great and wonderful you are. It's
It's
just
more relatable.
universally true. So if you're going to exaggerate a story, I'd have you test this theory. Instead of exaggerating how good you are, talk about why you're a screw up. Talk about where you messed up. Self-deprecating humor. Not to the point where you undermine yourself, but just poke at yourself a little bit. And instead of telling the person how you caught that huge fish, talk about how you weren't paying attention and the fish actually took the pole and you lost not only the fish, but your fishing pole. Because now it's in the middle of the lake somewhere. And just test this with me. Just see if they relate more with the inadequacies or the embellishments. And I think it'll be the former.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I usually double down on the embarrassing things. I think they get more of a laugh anyway than the great stories.
It's just more relatable.
Yeah.
It's just people, I could go anywhere for any story that I want. I can find people bragging and exaggerating and embellishing their stories. And what you can't find is somebody who's honest and humble and willing to laugh at themselves a little bit.
You know what this reminds me of? Jesse Itzler. It was hilarious. It was probably a couple months ago. And he had a post on social media, and it's him taking a picture with this couple outside of a convention hall where he was like a keynote speaker. And he's taking a picture with this couple. And he goes, and then in the description, he says, this couple asked me to take a picture. He's like, I assumed that they were wanting to take a picture with me. But they were asking me, he was like, they were asking me to take a picture of them. And he just injected himself into the picture. And then they ended up having a conversation about who he was, and they had no idea who he was. I'm like, that's so funny. It's hilarious.
That's hilarious. Actually, Jesse's a good example. So I did a podcast with Jesse in Atlanta, and I think he's him and his wife are billionaires. They're billionaires at this point. Individually, by the way. He's a billionaire and she's a billionaire individually. Isn't she like the founder of Spanx or something or whatever that like exercise clothing for women? Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
They're both billionaires individually. And I went to their home, and it's unbelievable. He's got like a treehouse forest, and he's got a basketball court in his basement. And the guy is just humble, and he's a little bit goofy, right? He's a goofy guy.
Yeah. Super
And
goofy.
he's silly and goofy and funny, and he's lanky and kind of weird and quirky. But he's humble. He laughs at himself. He jokes about it. He talks about his inadequacies, and yet he's hyper successful. Not only in the realm of finances and career, but his kids and his wife, the beautiful family. I mean, that's a great example right there. I'm glad you pulled him up. It's a great example of it.
Yeah, super funny. So let's assume though that the validation is too much, right? Like it's, we just find ourselves seeking validation for other people. Back to his question.
Yeah.
How do we make that less important if it's driving our behavior too much?
I would say that if you're seeking validation from others, it's because you haven't learned to validate yourself. And I recorded a video. I haven't posted it yet, but I recorded a video just yesterday, and I said something to the effect that after being on this planet for nearly 50 years at this point, that the only thing that matters is to make yourself and your creator proud.
In the
That's
end,
it.
that's all.
That's it.
Yeah.
If you can make yourself proud today, and you can make him proud because you honored and respected the gifts that he bestowed you with, then you win. And everybody else around you wins. So how do you make yourself proud? You get up when your alarm goes off. You don't hit snooze or sleep in. You get right up. You go hit the workout that you said you were going to hit. You go make the sales calls that you said and committed to making. You respect your wife and you take her out. If you said, hey, I'll make you dinner tonight, then you make her dinner tonight. If you told your kids that you'll play catch with them after work, then you play catch with them after work. If you told your boss you'll hit that deadline, you hit the deadline. If you committed to go change the oil in your truck, you change the oil in your truck. All the things that you said you were going to do, even if you didn't write them down, you just said them in your mind, then if you do those things, you will be honoring and respecting yourself. And when you can do that, then you can look yourself right in the eye and know that that's all that matters. And everybody else will be served by that, by the way. So it's not being selfish. It's actually a really powerful alignment between how you show up and the way other people need you to show up. And then if you use the God-given talents and gifts and abilities that are innate within you to improve your life and the lives of others, then you will be making him proud and you will not be squandering what he's given you. If you can do those two things, you don't need anybody else to tell you how great and wonderful you are. You already know. You don't need to win people over through your stories because it doesn't matter. It's as simple as that. A lot of work, a lot of effort, but it is simple. Make yourself and him proud.
Yeah. Love it. One more question.
All right, next one. So this comes from Chris Vaughn. He said, my 7-year-old son watched me get disrespected by another man in public and I didn't escalate it. He says, I kept calm and walked away. And now I'm questioning if I showed strength or weakness. What should a man model in that moment? That's interesting because I actually had an experience this last weekend with that. And I won't share all of the details because the person I got into it a little bit with, I actually respect. But this individual disrespected me and I called him on it right then and there. Because I will not be disrespected by anybody. Now, I don't know the circumstances here. If it was a person, a stranger. I mean, I've had all sorts of scenarios. I walked into an archery shop one time, and the guy there, the owner of the archery shop, was so disrespectful to me in front of my son, my oldest son. He was probably 11 or 12 at the time. So disrespectful. And I didn't say anything to the guy. I was like, okay. And I left. But here's what makes it important is, did you communicate it effectively with your son or your daughter? That's what you need to do. Because
so they even understand.
Right. Because if they don't know, then they're going to start filling in the blanks and the assumptions aren't going to be great. And so, okay, so what? A stranger said something to you in public. Does that warrant a response? Maybe not necessarily. Probably in most situations it doesn't, because why? And then what you do is you explain to your son, hey, look, people are going to disrespect you. People are going to say rude things. People are going to say mean things. We don't need to respond to everything. This is how a man handles himself. That's the disconnect. Did you explain it to him? So when I walked out of that archery shop, I asked my oldest son, I said, hey, bud, how did you feel about that? He's like, that guy was rude. And I said, yeah, he was. He was rude. And how do you think we handled it? He's like, I guess we handled it well. We just went somewhere else. I said, yeah, exactly right. We just go somewhere else. We take our business somewhere else. He's welcome to feel that way. He's welcome to be rude as long as it doesn't infringe on me personally. He can be rude. He can say what he wants to say. Not everything warrants a response. Or here's a response by us deciding to walk away. By the way, that's a response. Because he said, I didn't escalate it. What? Did you need to?
Escalate it in a negative direction?
Right. You know? Like, was it a threat? Okay, so Kipp, let's say you and I are out, we don't know each other, and we're out in public, and I'm at a restaurant, and you butt in front of me in line, and I'm like, oh, excuse me, sir, like, we're here in line. And you're like, well, I don't care. I'm doing it anyways. It's like, do I need to fight with you over that?
Yeah.
Or could I just assume that, you know, hey, I could say something as simple as this. Hey, you know what? Like, maybe you've got places to be and you're busy, and so, like, whatever, man. That's fine. Cool. If that's what you need to do, good. I don't care. Do I need to get into a fight and an altercation over that?
Well, and if you did, it's like, what are you teaching your kid? Hey, if anyone ever bruises your ego, go to violence.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
or tit for tat and then, make fun of them and cause more drama. Like when has that ever worked in a positive way? Never.
Right.
So why would you want to teach that? Right. But to your point, you got to communicate it too, right? Because social media, well, and maybe even the kid might be feeling his ego and felt, man, I felt like you should have hit him or you should have pushed him or you should have done something. And if you don't explain why that's inappropriate, now he's going to put the label on that action as, oh, dad's a coward or, dad didn't stand up for himself or whatever, right? So to your point, that the context of that conversation with your kid is critical.
Right. I think there's another element here, and I don't know with Chris. I don't know his situation, but I present myself as someone not to be fucked with in public.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people messing with me or the people with me.
Totally.
And I've had people laugh at me about it. My ex-wife would often joke. She's like, why do you walk around like that in public? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you walk around like a gorilla. And I said, you know what? You better be grateful and thankful for the way that I walk around. Because have you and I ever been messed with in public? She's like, no. I'm like, then probably don't complain about that. And we were joking. Like we weren't arguing. We were joking about it. But yeah, I present myself as someone not to be messed with. And this situation that I had over the weekend, disrespectful. The tone was disrespectful. So I came back at him and I said, no, we're not doing that. This is how you will be treating me. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about the situation. This is how we'll be treated. And he didn't say another word. And I turned to my son, who's 10, and I said, hey, you don't ever let somebody disrespect you like that without saying something. You don't need to escalate it, but nobody treats you like that out loud. If somebody has an issue, they can bring something up, but this is how we handle ourselves. You just have to have the conversations and you have to explain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, walking away is not cowardly. I think he says, did I show strength or weakness? I don't know. You have to answer that question for yourself. But if it's not a threat to you or yours, then I would say it's probably not weakness. It's probably a strength to walk away. Now, if it's a threat, that's a different conversation.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. This would be a fun, I don't know, like I'm now thinking about this would be a fun thing to deep dive into, is where weakness and where our ego come into play, and how often when our ego feels attacked, we take that as weakness. And I don't think that is weakness. It's something else, right? So I don't know. I don't know. I have to think on that.
Wait, so I don't quite understand that. You said when our ego is attacked, it's not weakness. What is that? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think there's a lot of instances in our lives where our ego feels bruised and we associate that to being weak.
Oh,
and it's not weakness. That's not weakness. That's something else. That's I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but they're not the same thing. But no. I would probably bet that most people, when their ego feels attacked and they don't respond, they would put the label of being weak on it. And it's not weak.
Yeah.
It's something else. But
I would just rewrite the script. And in this instance, I would rewrite the script that's running through your mind. Because what's running through your mind is like, oh, I should have stood up for myself. Why?
Yeah, like work through it.
That guy doesn't know you. Whatever you got into is not accurate. And you know what? Maybe even you were having a bad day. Like I've had that situation. Here's a good example. This was not going to be flattering at all, but I'll explain it anyways. So I was coaching my oldest son's flag football team years ago, and this was probably 10 years or so ago, 9 or 10 years ago. And the other team, the referees weren't calling certain things that were illegal based on the rule book. And when I coach, I read the rules because they need to abide by the rules, and we do too. And I expect everybody to be held to the same standard. So I actually know the rules better than probably a lot of the umpires and referees. And so I've had situations where I've called an umpire or a referee over, and I'm like, and I have the handbook with me, and I'm like, hey, right here, can't do that. And they're like, oh yeah, you're actually right. And so it changes the call. But I got a little belligerent one time, and I kind of started, yapping my mouth a little bit at the referee. And I just dragged it on and on and on. And the other coach was like, dude, it's a kid's game or something. Like he said something like that. He's like, you're being crazy. And at the time I was pissed off, and I'm like, I thought about it more and more. And I was like, no, you know what? He's probably right. And I went up to him after the game, and I'm like, hey man, I wanted to tell you, like, I was pissed when you said that, but you were actually right. I get a little heated in the moment. I get excited. I want to win. I'm competitive. He's like, no, I get it. I am too. He's like, but I think you took it too far. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I did. I just wanted to tell you, I apologize. Like I could have handled that better. And we shook hands, and even now we're friends. Like I see him in town and stuff. We live in a small town, and I see him, we're friends. But like, he was right. I was wrong. And it's okay to say that. It's actually better that you do. That goes back to a previous question about building trust with people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, all these histories of getting riled up during Little League baseball games and stuff are now like flooding into my mind.
Totally. All right, let's see. I'm going to find a good one here. I've got 7 or 8 different questions. Okay, so this is a good one. I'm curious about this one. So this is Kyle Brennan. He says, I make really good money. He says, I'm in good shape, and I've got a lot of options with women. So he's confident, right?
Yeah.
He said also, but I can't seem to stay interested in one woman for more than a few weeks. At what point is that me just lacking discipline versus me not meeting the right person? And I don't know. I don't even know if it's a discipline question necessarily. It might just be you're chasing the bright and shiny object. Maybe you don't want to commit. Maybe you don't want to be pinned down. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. Here's what I would say.
Yeah.
Novelty. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is you do need to be honest with the women that you're dating, right? So if you make them believe you're just dating them and not dating other people, that's an issue. But as long as you're honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with dating around. That's the point, to try to figure out who you want to be with and who you resonate with and who you connect with. But here's what I would probably suggest is I would spend a lot of time thinking about what you're actually looking for, because you might be at a stage in your life. I don't know how old Kyle is. He might be at a stage in his life where he's not ready to settle down, and that's fine. That's completely fine. So go spend time with women, date a bunch of women, figure out what you like, figure out what you don't like, figure out what your type is, figure out how to handle conflict. Just again, be honest. That's all I would say, is be honest and respectful and upfront about that with them so that they can make decisions, because they don't need to participate in the game that you're playing, but they do need to know the rules. Otherwise, you're being deceitful, and that's not good.
Yeah.
So sure, do that. Figure out what you want. Do you want to date around? I'm assuming because you're asking this question, you're potentially trying to look at a long-term relationship. And if that's the case, what I would suggest is to write down what exactly you're looking for in a woman. Because if you don't write it down and it's not crystallized in your mind, how do you know if you come across it?
Yeah.
And by the way, you're not going to find the perfect one, but you might need to realize, hey, what am I willing to tolerate? What am I willing to put up with? What is okay if it means that I can have these things on my list of characteristics and attributes in a woman? And
I totally
once you have that, then you can measure. I want to be careful. It sounds a little cold and calculated, but you can. I don't know how else to say it. You can measure the women that you meet against the desires that you have. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, and as you date, I mean, that's the whole point of dating, right? Is to even validate and test against that. You're like, oh, this is really important to me. And then you date a girl and you're like, actually, it's not that important. What really, made me want to draw from that relationship was something else. and that's not even on my list. So maybe so it's part of you learning what you want too, in these relationships. So make sure also that like, as maybe break up with a girl and you're looking at dating someone else, like, what was it? What was it that didn't work for you, and learn from it versus, and if you find yourself like, well, there's nothing, it's just this other girl's exciting. Now you're chasing excitement, and that's probably something else than learning, what's ideal. So,
you know what, as you were saying that, I thought the goal here is to date with intentionality.
Yeah.
And your intention might be to find a long-term relationship, and that's a good intention. That's a worthy intention. And if you're not there yet, you can still date with intention. So what does that look like? Figuring out what you like and you don't like.
Yeah.
You could go on 100 dates this year and enjoy it, but still do it with intention. And the intention is, hey, I'm going to spend time with a lot of different women because I want to know what exactly I'm looking for and what exactly I don't want. And that's still intentional, and that's okay, as long as you communicate that with her. That's the caveat I always give that, because if you're just whoring around and you're lying and deceiving, that's a problem too. So just do it intentionally.
Totally. Cool, brother.
All right, got a lot of good questions. We've got more we can get through. Guys, call to action today. Check out the Iron Council. This is built by you. This is a brotherhood built by men like you who are working together, going through assignments, going through courses, going through programs, having conversations. The question earlier we had about who would you call? Interestingly enough, all three of those would not be you, Jay, and Larry would not be relationships if it weren't for the brotherhood that we built here. So if you are looking for men in your corner and want to be surrounded by good men who are doing good things, who are going to hold you accountable, who you can hold accountable, then look no further than the Iron Council. Go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. Get signed up immediately. We'll get you paired up with a coach and we'll get you onboarded as fast as possible so you can start reaping the benefits. Anything else?
Yeah, Kipp? I was just going to share really quick. I mean, I had a conversation with a gentleman literally last week, and we were talking about what we do in the IC with our quarterly goal setting and accountability and the calls that we have. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, "Sign me up." And I asked him, I'm like, "Why? Like, I'm just curious. Like, why? What is it?" And he's like, "I have people in my life. I love them. They're great, but they're focused on drinking on the weekends and going partying." And he's like, "And that's not me. I want to be a better version of myself. I want to be a better dad. I want to improve in the areas of my life." And they're not like-minded in this space of trying to become a better version. And he's like, "And I don't have people like that in my life." And he's like, "And you guys obviously are. So I want you in my life." And that's really what we're doing. So,
you know what's interesting about that, Kipp, is you run a team, Deseret Guard, inside the Iron Council, and you've got 8 guys or so on your team.
Yep.
And these are men that you have personally invited to join the Iron Council. So what that means is that you already knew them before they joined the Iron Council, and you brought them in. And I'd be willing to bet, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you tell me the honest truth about this. I'd be willing to bet that by having them inside the Iron Council with structure, calls, meeting, accountability, reporting, check-ins, that your relationship has gone from wherever it was and exponentially grown because of the Iron Council, the structures, the systems, the support. Even though you already had those relationships, they're probably elevated. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident.
That's totally true. Absolutely. All of them are elevated because of it. And you're right. All of them. I mean, some of those guys, this sounds bad. It's true. But like some of those guys, they are not even aware of the order of man. Right. So I'm like, join this battle team. And they're like, "Who's Ryan Mickler?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." Join anyway.
You don't need to worry about him.
But my point being is, like, to your point, I had an established relationship. And then what are those guys doing right now? "Oh man, we need to get so-and-so part of this team. We need to get so-and-so in the Iron Council," right? Because they're seeing the value of that structure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being a really good football player or just athlete in general, and you're just naturally talented and gifted. And then you go play for, Bill Belichick in his heyday with the Patriots. You're going to be even better because of the systems and the structure and the support and the accountability and the guidance and the coaching. So get involved. If you want to magnify your results, get involved. And people will say, well, what am I going to pay to be part of a friend group? You're not paying to be friends. You're investing in a system that improves your life. And you're going to build some friendships while you're at it. But that's not what you're paying for. You're paying for yourself to improve. And what is that worth? I don't know. It's worth more than you pay. I know that, if you put forth the investment and the effort. All right, brother. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for the great questions today. We will be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.